Brian here. Let's kind of get into this. I got some clothes here and there. I don't care. Every room in the house right now, right now almost looks just like. I mean, it's not. It's not that bad, but. And then right here, we got a freaking subwoofer. So I didn't think it would be so big, but we'll see. Anyway, let's kind of get into this. I know I've been putting a lot of videos out recently. I don't really care too much. It's kind of like boring with a lot of this market. I will say that I do think we have hit a take profit spot, and that's why I'm kind of putting out this video. We're near some of the averages, and there's some other things. So let's just kind of get into it in a sense. So first things first, we're just going to talk about Mara. So let's see, week time frame. I got in. The last thing we talked about was right here, Mara, where I want to buy back in, and so I bought in Mara here on this week. Right, this is just a signal I look for. Dropped all the way down here. I never bought more just because I didn't like how it was down here. I could have bought it here. I didn't like it. So I held it all the way back right up into this area. I was hoping on this last week, not this week, but the previous week, that we could start above. And then I think I added more on. No, what I did is I put, so I had like 50% in, and then I just went all in. And I think that was at one of these recent days at like 21:30. Let me see if I can find it specifically. I think it was, I don't remember when it was, but it was like some day I got in and I got out 21:30. I got out 21:40 because it just seemed really sketchy. Um, oh, that's what it was. So we're holding on through. We got into here, held through here, and I think it was this last week. It might have been this week that I got in right when we started. I got in, I think, at 9:30, 9:32. I was running some errands for the family, and then we already hit the target. So I think if we look at it this week, we'll probably be able to see it. I think it was this Monday. Yeah. So this Monday right here, I got in at like 20. Was it 21? Huh. But I guess I got it. Huh. I don't remember what day it is, but I'm almost positive it was at 21 like 30 and I got out 21:40. Either that or it was 20:30 and I got out 20:40. But regardless, it's just sketchy. A lot of the stuff didn't look good. And still we haven't seen that entry point. So I'm really just looking for this again. So I hate to kind of ramble on there, but we're going to go pretty quickly through a lot of this other stuff. So one of the other things, obviously, when I look at Mara is important itself. We do have a sign from Apple, which I think is fairly significant. Bitcoin's been pretty standard for what it's been doing. I do think it has a pretty decent chance just because we broke. I don't know if this is higher here. I don't necessarily care. I do believe it's lower. Let's see. What's the high here? 950. Oh, 71922, 71950. So it did slightly break it. But regardless, because we broke this, we can just kind of look at it in that sense. I do like it in that sense. But the averages are all the way down here, right? So when I first started doing Mara, we got in our positions, it was all the way back here, right? I think it was November 20th. And then the other week for some of the stuff was the week of December 3rd. And I think December 8th stuff went up a lot also as well. I believe those kind of 2 days. I might be wrong because those are 5 days apart. So who knows? Anyway, so the point is all the averages down here, but if we look in the day time frame, we can actually see this makes a lot of sense. So I think, what it was last Friday. I don't remember. But I do remember, I think it was towards the end of the week. One of the things I didn't like, because I remember not wanting to hold Mara, was the idea that, well, this is Friday. If we start the day under here, I could easily see us coming down to these areas. I think both of these levels are fairly decent for what they are and where it could try to push back up. I'm not a big fan of what it's done. I mean, we can see it's pretty standard with the whole averages that we have here, the 500, 375 respectively. 375 is orange, 500 is red. But we can see here, right? I mean, it's fairly clear, right? Boom, 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 pushes up, and then right. So what I was looking for, what I was actually planning on doing was not buying Mara again. It was actually buying Bitcoin, just because I didn't like the way Mara looked itself. But what I was looking for buying Bitcoin is a daytime frame to start up here. So pretty standard stuff, pretty cool. Another pretty cool thing that's somewhat unrelated is Nifty, which was pretty like, whoa, what the hell? But I thought this was pretty cool and pretty wild too. So that was pretty cool, right? Like if you're just waiting here, we had our buy point, boom, come under right here. We start above, pushes up, and it's really cool, right? The bots just buy it, right? And then if I was to buy it here, though, this would have been like sell 50, 60%, and then maybe or 70, like 65%, and then like 35 in this range. It's very crazy that it came all the way back up. I'm quite surprised. I think they had some issues, as far as I know, with the Nifty over in India. The kind of like for US people, it's like the Republican Party lost the majority essentially. Like the pro business, pro kind of economic, whatever. I really don't know Indian politics whatsoever at all, but that's what I've read anyway. So it makes sense that you'd have a lot of selling off if the people that are willing to be kind of more relaxed on government or business, government regulation towards business and maybe taxes, things like that. It makes quite a bit of sense. I actually pretty sure they anticipated that they were going to lose just a little bit, and they lost quite a lot. I think they're still the majority, but I think the estimate of how bad it was going to be was beaten. So anyway, so let's get off of that. Let's kind of get into Apple. So I think Apple's a really big determinant here. I'm pretty interested to see what's happening. One thing I will say, in a lot of these situations, I do think you got to be a little bit more careful, right? We push down here, but we then do end up pushing back up. This isn't one of those situations where we're coming up. Well, this is ugly, but coming up and then falling back, boom, we start under, boom, boom, start back up. Well, technically we didn't start in. So, but this stuff is like way different because we're downtrending and we're still uptrending. So I do think there's a decent possibility that we go up, but from Apple, this is a take profit spot. In my opinion, this is a take profit spot. This is where you take profits. I mean, obviously it's in regards to whatever the tax situation is with everything, or it could be get like a call or an option or two, a put or two to leverage in that kind of sense. But it really depends on the specific situation. Even if it's like 5, 10, 15% is kind of a lot. Depending, but if this was like a trade and I got in here, I mean, I would have gotten out almost everything here. There's not really a lot. Like, this is just risky, in my opinion, always to just leave it there, because you're going to see extend duration is not what I would say. You're going to see more pressure than you're generally going to see in other situations. So that's not my fight. But from a investment standpoint, there's no reason in my opinion, to get rid of too much of this. But anyway, what we're looking for is just starting up here, and I think it looks pretty good to take another position on it. It might not go anywhere, right? I mean, if we look at some of these other places, we'll just do this. We have our entry point. We go up 11% before we come back down, right? So in here, we go up 5% before we come back down. So there's nothing here says, you know what I mean? Like, nothing here says we're going to go all the way up, in my opinion. That's not how these whole averages are supposed to be used. So, that's kind of that in a sense. The main point I bring up in Apple, I guess, is right. We used Apple a lot, or I used Apple as a determinant a lot in 2022, maybe. I don't remember 2021. But at least 2022, I think 2021, 2022, when it gets away from the averages, there's not really a lot you can do. I still think it's important when it gets around the averages. NVIDIA is not important whatsoever to me from a technical standpoint. I don't care about its market cap. It's just not important to me from a technical standpoint. So it's like, if you wanted to trade it from some of these levels, like, sure. And I didn't know, but I'm not surprised that we pushed up from these ranges whatsoever at all. I don't think most people were surprised. I mean, this was surprising. This wasn't as surprising, but I would say definitely like this definitely surprised me quite a bit. So, this run up from freaking 757 all the way up to 1250, definitely surprising. Definitely something I didn't expect. So we'll see how it plays out. But at the end of the day, right, the day time frame averages. Oh, I guess if I pay attention to this more, day time frame averages is probably about as it's just about as straightforward as it gets. Boom. We end under, we start back above. This is really good. But if I was to play this is the range I would play just about. So I would have played this for 7%. Maybe have gotten back in here. This would have been a little sketchy though. Luckily on the second day, this trade on the second day is perfect. Because you're already breaking. You just immediately break into where you needed to break into. You're right into where the resistance was. But it's still a little bit sketchy. I could see somewhat of a trade. This would have been quite a bit of a bigger one. Obviously, you can get in here. This is like the range, but if you're holding to get out, you get out if it starts back under. So I do like it in that perspective, but it's just all the way up here. The day time frame's down here. The week time frame is nowhere to be seen, all the way at 48, which is a great level where it is right now. But I mean, the one issue is that this is going up so quickly. So right, every single we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks from now. This is often no man's land. So I don't know how much this is going to mean in the next coming weeks as we come up. But to expect this with like, I mean, they're right. I mean, it's just like, look at their earnings. So it just to expect it to come down that far is kind of unrealistic because I don't know, just some of these people got to be crazy to be able to just want to sell it that hard. I just don't see it as a serious possibility or consideration. Let's check some of these other ones. There's not really too much with the DXY. I guess the one thing, it's the dollar's still in limbo. One, I don't think there's much to look at for the dollar. What I was looking for and what I was interested in was this level right here. Right, we can see the hull is right here, and it's not like, oh, the hull's right here, but it's like what we just saw with NVIDIA on the day time frame, week time frame. Is there a lot of is there a lot of support here that would add to this, or that would add credibility to this level? And yes, there is in this point right here. So one thing we'll see what happens. If I wanted to see the dollar go up, I would have wanted to see it get pushed down here. The issue, I mean, we can just clearly see if we look at some of these lows in these last weeks, this is pretty good right here, right here. It's not that bad. Bounce, push down. Like we can see, this is a pretty determinate line here. So if we do come down here and bounce here, which I think it probably will a little bit, but will it pass back up? That's kind of questionable. So we'll see what goes on with this. We've been within this range for quite a while, and it makes me think that the dollar is going to end up going down. But anything could happen, right? I guess it could still push up. I'm not really too concerned until we're back above the week 375. Right here, we start a week above that, but it is quite a bit concerning. I guess over the next couple of weeks, this will just come up, but this is going to take like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 8 weeks or something like that to be able to reach this point. So that's quite a bit of time. Law also for Mara law. I mean, I talked about it earlier, but looking at the day time frame, it's just funny. I don't know why people are messing with this. I mean, there's just pretty much nothing beautiful about it on the day time frame. Look at the week time frame right here. We are just within this range, and we cannot escape this range. And on the day time frame, because we're on a downtrend, right? So we're up here. We start up here, which arguably is like one of the nicest from a day perspective anyway. We started the week down here, so it's kind of like such. But from a day perspective, this is maybe not actually. Maybe this is Labor Day. No, I don't think it was. But anyway, so on this downtrend, once we've been stuck under here, like we have not started, like even as we've come back up, we end above, but we start right under. And on top of that, we hit the top of, like we push into the range, hit it, and then like end right back under it. And then we end back under it and then push back up. This is obviously I think it's one of the worst things that you can really see, because it's like someone drowning. When you think of like, when you think of, waves and someone's like drowning or whatever, like they bob up, they'll come up a couple times and whatever, and like a last time, then they'll go down. Right. So that's my fear. I mean, I'm not saying it's the same thing. That's what's going to happen just because of that, but that's what I've always associated with. And I've seen this many times. That's what it always reminds me of. But at the same time, I don't know what they're buying on Mara. It's really been a pipe dream. Mara hasn't looked good. And like we saw before, Bitcoin hasn't had the buy signal, and you're essentially buying Mara with the eye, like in a bad range. Unless Bitcoin looks crazy and it's just shooting up, Mara isn't just going to follow it unless something crazy either looks good on Mara or the broader market looks really good. So just the idea of them buying all that in these last couple of days when we haven't had a buy signal on Mara is pretty wild. So, and we've been in this range for quite a while. We've come out here and that's about it. Besides that, for like the last half a month, we've been in 3 weeks, we've been in this range. Let me see. I don't think USD WTI, there's anything specific. I mean, we can see the bounce back here again. I'm not a big fan of this. I think this is pretty good. I don't like this, but I do like stuff like this, right? Where this is a sell point. To me, this is like get out. I'm not saying it's going to go down, but to me, like that's the sentiment in this sense is like, okay, we can easily drop here. And then we're really looking for something. So like when we get into this, or like if I was to buy into this, it would be here. whoops, it would be right here, right? We start under, I'm looking for it to start above, and then I'm looking for it to come down here, and then we'll pick up our entry here. So I like this. We go from like sketchy to looking good in that kind of clear reversal, I guess, in a sense. Like when it looks bad and then it looks good, I don't think you have a choice. But I question things like this a lot of times because I don't know why we necessarily pushed up from a technical perspective. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I question the whole move up, but this looked good. So I don't question this. This looked good. And then when something like this happens, it's one of those things of like, what's going on here? What's going on here? So we bounced here. I'm not surprised. Does it hold? Does it push back up? I don't think so. I think oil might continue downwards, but we might have to be under 7106 to get that extra pressure downwards on one of the week time frames. We have a long time in this month. So let's see. NASDAQ. I don't think there's anything specific that looks crazy. Yeah, it's very similar with this one as also the NASDAQ futures, where it looked like we were going to go down. I'm not surprised to push back up here. We haven't had anything that's started under, right? We start above, push down, start above, push down, start above, push down, boom. Right. And then we can see the same kind of thing also a little bit here. Boom, ugly as heck, push up, push up. We've come back in. There's nothing you can do. This is the one I was looking at originally and why I thought quite a bit of stuff was going to come down. And we were also in this same time period looking at Apple getting really close to its take profit spot. So some things that were kind of questionable. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this did come from NVIDIA itself, but this is the one I was looking at more so than the other one. And this is why I was a little bit sketched about the market. I have to figure out which NASDAQ to look at. I've been looking at this one and I still prefer to look at this one. And I don't really regret it whatsoever. I definitely it went back up, but to me, the general sentiment has just been sketchiness. And some things just not making a whole lot of sense. Very interesting with Bonk having a different price thing. I don't think it matters though. But I guess another interesting thing, USD JPY, we're still here. Still kind of interesting. I'm not really sure why. I don't have too much to say on it though. I just think it's interesting that we're still here. We'll see what happens. I don't think it's worth betting on, to be honest, but I don't know how. I don't think the Bank of Japan at some point in time spent 60 billion. I think it was last year just trying to prop the yen up. So I mean, yeah, which is probably them selling their dollar reserves, right, for the yen. So I don't know. I think it's still reasonable. It's hard to say because this was the entry point. This was the second entry point, and it's up here, anything can happen. I mean, anything could have happened kind of here too, but you're going against a lot of traders, and if you hire someone that's in finance or anyone somewhat intelligent, you're not going to have someone try to you're going to pick certain places to influence things. If you don't want this to go up, you're not going to try to stop it from going up here when you have something so beautiful. You're going to let it come up and then you're going to attack it back down. You're right. Have some resistance, have some price action at the top that you can then have in your favor again when you try to knock it back down for a second time, right? If they try to stop it before this isn't a double top that looks bad. Now, the yen's just horrible anyway, and their policies are pretty wild. I think they're at 1%. I think they hit 1.1% not too long ago. But I mean, that's chump change. I don't even know where it is. It's not a big deal. Here it is. Yeah, so they're back under 1% for their yields, which is interesting. But I'm not too surprised. Well, actually, it's a little bit surprising. If the yields are going on, that means people are buying their bonds. But I don't know who's buying their bonds. It could just be the Bank of Japan. GME. I don't think there's really anything interesting. I guess I could say this. This is pretty freaking straightforward of hey, we should take a position. I will say this is so wild though. If I was streaming and someone asked me where to take a position, I would have said right here. Would I have expected it to go up as much as it did? Possibly. I mean, definitely possibly, but not really. Not really. I definitely if I was to look at this and put money on this, maybe $500, $1,000, something like that. But 10,000, 20,000, no way. It is what it is. I mean, you can kind of see in other senses too. Also, right? You can just There's a lot of things that look good, but I mean, it's still wild. It's a roller coaster right now, so it kind of is what it is. So we got 20 seconds left. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm a little sketched about a lot of this stuff. We'll see what happens. Yeah, and I probably won't make a video for a while. We'll see. If things stay interesting, I'll make a video. But stuff's pretty boring and it feels pretty straightforward. So anyway, take care, guys. Love you and hope you're doing well.